What's up, YouTube? I'm gonna do my review of the Croissant Diet. Basically, how I lost 40 pounds eating cheeseburgers, cheese, Haagen-Dazs ice cream, cheesecake, things that are loaded with saturated fat, and avoiding vegetable oil. So here goes. Basically, a little bit of background about me. I'm 53 years old. Many years ago, probably 20 at this point, I competed in bodybuilding, and I was a personal trainer way back when. And have a desk job now. I'm a systems engineer. But anyway, I have always been interested in fitness and health. I've worked out, basically all of my adult life, at least 3 times a week for the most part. And I guess about 7 months ago, October, when I turned 53, I was not really happy with how I looked. Hadn't been for quite a few years. I had put on some weight, and I was 253 pounds, and I was, well, let's just say I wasn't the picture of health. So I decided that I was going to do something about it, but I have tried several things in the past. I've done keto before with a limited amount of success. And when I say I've done keto, I mean I follow it to the letter, like very strictly. My friends know, like when I do a nutritional program, I was vegan for all of 2019. Basically for an entire year, I didn't eat any animal products to speak of. About 4 times during the year, I ate something that came from an animal. And being a person who wasn't vegan, that was, somewhat of a challenge, but I decided to do it, and I did. I felt pretty good when I was vegan, although I did have a lot of gastrointestinal discomfort, and it was intermittent. I mean, like sometimes I would have it, sometimes I wouldn't. But overall, I dropped maybe 10 or 12 pounds, and that was about it. It didn't really change, what was going on with me very much as far as body composition goes. So I wanted to do something to drop I don't want to just lose weight. I wanted to drop the body fat. So I was doing my normal thing, which is when my wife and I are in bed, she's editing her YouTube channel. She's the one that encouraged me to do this. And I'm usually, watching YouTube videos about fitness, nutrition, something like that, or reading PubMed studies about what a nutritional substance does to the human body. Yeah, weird, I know, but it's just something I've always liked, I've been interested in. So somehow, and I'm not sure exactly, but it might have been Ben Greenfield's podcast that mentioned the Croissant Diet. And so I stumbled onto Brad Marshall and the writings of Brad Marshall on fireinaBottle.net, and I started reading about the Croissant Diet, and I thought, this is crazy, because conventional wisdom, being a personal trainer, being a person who competed in bodybuilding and knowing, how to get lean, although the methods that I used when I was younger didn't seem to work as well now that I was older, I thought, one thing I pretty much know for sure is you do not want to eat carbs and fat. I mean, you just don't want to do that. And but I read the article about the Croissant Diet and the logic behind it, and it made sense. Basically, if memory serves me right, Brad was saying that he was always puzzled by the fact that in the late 60s, early 70s, the people in France were rail thin, but they ate a diet composed mainly of butter and flour, along with some sugar and some wine. And why was it that these people were so thin, and yet they ate carbs and fat together, simple sugars even? And so the more I dug into the writings that Brad had posted on fireinaBottle.net, the more intrigued I became, because he linked to a lot of different scientific studies about how basically, in a nutshell, avoiding vegetable oil, polyunsaturated fat, and eating extra saturated fat would flip a switch in your mitochondria and your fat cells and cause your fat cells to burn much more fat. So the more I read, the more I was intrigued, and I decided to, after several days of reading, his articles and some of the medical studies that he linked to, I decided to give it a try. So I started off right around my birthday, and the first week I think I dropped 7 or 8 pounds roughly. The second week it was, slightly less, 6 or 7 pounds. The next week it was like 4 pounds. The next week it was like 4 pounds. The next week it was 3. And anyway, in about the first 6 weeks I had dropped 18 pounds and taken 2 inches off of my waist. So I wore a size 36 pants for the last 15 years. And now, as of this morning, I was 213.2 pounds from 253. So I don't know 253 point what. I just wrote down 253 in the beginning. So I've dropped 40 pounds in 7 months. Most of it was in the first 6 weeks. The first 18 or so pounds the first 6 weeks, and then the next 22 pounds over the next 4.5 months. So after I had been on it for the first 6 weeks, a buddy of mine asked me what I was doing. We work out together, and he was like, "Hey, I can see you're dropping weight. I want to lose some weight too." And I said, "Well, I'm doing this experiment, but I don't necessarily know 100% that it's healthy. I'll get to that in a minute, but yet it works. I'm dropping body fat like crazy." And so he said, "Okay, I want to try it." So I helped him start. So Rob's my best friend, and so we sat down. We spent a lot of time talking about it. He actually brought a notebook over to the house to write things down, and we designed a nutritional program for him. He's since modified it several times to his own liking, but he understands the rules, and he's dropped close to 40 pounds, and he started around January 1. So, and Rob was a bigger dude than me, but he's dropped 40, and I think the sky's the limit. He's probably going to drop another, 10, 12 pounds or something before he hits his target. I sort of had decided I'd hit my target when I got into size 32 pants and had visible abs. So I was like, all right, this is great. This is probably as lean as I want to be. And but then I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, it's not hard to do this nutritionally at all. And I'll get into the particulars of it here in a minute. But I think I'm going to try to drop down to maybe 205 just to see exactly how lean I can get. I'll throw up some before and after pictures in this video, along with some other photographs to go along with some of the stuff I'm talking about. But in the very beginning, because of conventional wisdom, saturated fat is, supposed to be bad, supposed to be bad for your heart. And polyunsaturated fat is supposed to be the heart healthy oil or whatever. Anyway, that's, in my opinion now, I've read hundreds of published studies on this. It's pretty much just really old garbage that's been being recycled for the last 50 years for whatever reason. So I was concerned in the beginning about my blood pressure. I'm 53, I don't want to do something that's going to wreck my health. So I started monitoring my blood pressure in the beginning. And when I first started, there were days when I'd have a top number of 130. Most of the time it was, mid 120s, 125, 127, occasionally a top number of 130 and a bottom number of, 82, 84, 85. And basically that's at the beginning stages of hypertension. It's, it's just the very beginning. It's early, but not good. So here I am doing the Croissant Diet. I'm dropping body fat like crazy, and my blood pressure keeps getting steadily better. So now I never hit a top number, almost never. Maybe once in a blue moon I hit 120 on my top number, but most of the time 112, 113, 115 for the top number, and the bottom number is in the 60s or 70s. Low 70s, to sometimes low 60s, but most of the time upper 60s, low 70s for blood pressure. So my blood pressure's improved greatly. And as far as like what else I'm doing, you might go, oh, well, I started doing a bunch of cardio. I didn't. I was exercising exactly the same pretty much right before I started doing the Croissant Diet 3 times a week for 45 minutes. I do 4 exercises, usually 4 or 5 exercises in a workout, 3 sets. That's it. Compound movements divided into upper body, lower body, upper body, just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I just keep rotating like that. Nothing crazy, nothing extreme, just basic lifting weights. Don't do any cardio to speak of. I probably should, but I don't. So I didn't create a calorie deficit through doing a bunch of cardio or anything like that. The only thing that I did was I eliminated vegetable oil from my diet, and I started eating extra saturated fat. Particularly, and I don't want to get this part to get confused, because I think so many of the studies that we find out there about nutrition are flawed because they categorize things as one big lump, like fat as a lump. But you've got saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, monounsaturated fat. You've got, omega-3s, omega-6s. I mean, all these different categories, and they're not all the same. They don't react the same way in the body. So you can't just say fats do this and carbs do this. You've got, as far as carbs go, you've got starches, you've got long chain and medium chain starches, and you've got sugar. Like, oh, well, sugar's bad. Well, wait a minute. Are you talking about glucose or sucrose or fructose? Because they're different too, and the way they react in your body is different. So you can't just lump stuff together and say sugar's bad, whatever. So as it turns out, saturated fat is not bad for you. In videos beyond this, I'm going to go into, more about saturated fat and why it's not bad for you, particularly long chain saturated fat, the kind that you find in butter, that you find in dairy products, that you find in beef, that you find in lamb, that you find in bison. And I'm going to talk about that. So I'll get more in details of my knowledge of it. Most of this I learned from Brad's writing, but my interpretation of it may be a little bit different than his. But I've done I guess from my standpoint, the application of it, and it's worked, and I've applied it to someone else and it worked with them. And now there are probably about 10 other people in my circle of influence that are doing the same thing, and most of them have started recently, but one of them's lost 18 pounds, another one's lost 14 pounds, another one's been on it like 2 weeks, he's dropped 5, but my daughter's done it, she's been on it a week or so, but she's dropped like 4 pounds. Anyway, it works, and if you follow it and you avoid polyunsaturated fat, and I don't mean like every third or fourth day you go to the Mexican buffet and eat a basket of chips, because I'll tell you what I discovered: you can't do this for 3 or 4 days and then jump right back on the polyunsaturated fat train, because it will just completely reverse any progress. I didn't eat any polyunsaturated fat to speak of. I mean, and I'll get to exact numbers, but basically I kept my polyunsaturated fat under 10 grams a day. And that's what it looks like when you're basically trying to avoid it completely, because you can't, you're gonna get some. And do you need some? Yeah, you probably need a really tiny amount. Mostly the omega-3s and a little bit of omega-6s, but you need very little of either of them, maybe a gram or 2 of each. I don't know precisely, I don't think anybody does. You could find 100 people to argue about it. But I do know you don't need a lot of it at all. And honestly, I think the reason that we have an obesity epidemic in this country is because we all got sold a bill of goods many years ago about eating vegetable oil and it being healthy for your heart. There were a bunch of flawed studies that were done, and those studies made scientists skewed the data to make it look a certain way. Ansel Keys is a big one. His 6-country study, he basically he evaluated 6 countries that had a relatively high saturated fat intake and a high incidence of cardiovascular disease, and said, aha, this is what's causing it. He ignored 15 or 20 other countries that ate a large amount of saturated fat and didn't have a large incidence of cardiovascular disease. So I don't call that like being a good statistician, I call that being a good liar. When you have to take 20 countries and throw them out and only save 6 to make your point. It'd be different if he found 6 that made his point and 2 that didn't. He might give him the benefit of the doubt, but he threw way more out than he left in to make the point. Then this whole idea that saturated fat was bad for you got reinforced by a Russian doctor, scientist, who did this study where he fed rabbits cholesterol, and the rabbits arteries quickly got clogged with cholesterol. Rabbits are herbivores. They don't eat cholesterol. Guess what happens to a herbivore when you feed it cholesterol? They don't have any way of dealing with it. The same thing doesn't happen to omnivores. Pretty much, even now, modern medicine is reversing a bunch of its standpoint. It has recently reversed its standpoint on, eating cholesterol to a great degree. For many, many years, most of my adult life, the guidance was like eat 2 eggs per week. That was your cholesterol allotment. Now they're saying you could probably eat up to 2 eggs a day. Because dietary cholesterol, except for in a small percentage of the population, there are some people who are sensitive to dietary cholesterol. And if you're one of those people, this may not be the thing for you. I don't happen to be one of those people. But most people, and I mean the large majority of people, are not sensitive to it. If you triple your cholesterol intake, you might see a tiny increase in your total cholesterol number. It's not 1-to-1. Like if I was eating 300 grams of cholesterol a day, and I start eating 600 grams, my total number of cholesterol isn't going to go from 100 to 200. It doesn't do that. It's like a small increase. It'll go from 100 to 110, So anyway, the point is that, cholesterol is not bad. I'm not a doctor, by the way, and I don't play one on TV. So, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just sharing what I've learned, what I found out about this. And for all the people who are asking and who want to know, I just want to give them more information and, more about what I've learned about this amazing eating plan. So to give you a breakdown, the kind of foods that I get to eat, and I pretty much, kind of eat the same thing, at least for breakfast and lunch, Monday through Friday. I prepare it all on Sunday. I eat a croissant sandwich, an all butter croissant. I buy them at Walmart. And I eat roast beef and Swiss cheese on my croissant. I heat it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It's warm, it's buttery, it's flaky, it's fantastic. I have one of those for breakfast Monday through Friday. For lunch, I make a big pot of mashed potatoes on Sunday, and I divide that into 6 containers along with cook a bunch of ground beef. So I cook 2 pounds of ground beef on Sunday, and and then I make the mashed potatoes separately. I put a full stick of butter in the mashed potatoes and an entire package of cream cheese. So yes, I know sour cream is the tradition, and I used to do that, but I was accidentally out of sour cream one day and I saw that I had some cream cheese in the fridge. I put the whole 8-ounce package in there, mashed the potatoes up, and I thought they tasted better than they do with sour cream. So something if you want to try it. But sour cream's fine too, because both of them are high in saturated fat and they don't have any polyunsaturated fat to speak of. So buttery, cheesy mashed potatoes with 80-20 or 85-15 ground beef for lunch, Monday through Friday, along with a buttery, flaky croissant with roast beef and Swiss cheese. You could use cheddar cheese. It's not specific. A word about saturated fat and animal products. Pigs and chickens are not the same as cows. They have a lot of polyunsaturated fat inside their fat. So if you eat fatty pork like bacon or fatty chicken like the skin, fried chicken wings, which are also usually fried in peanut oil or whatever, you're taking in a whole bunch of polyunsaturated fat. So I pretty much avoid chicken and pork unless it's chicken breasts, which are just so low in fat already that it's not going to affect my total count of polyunsaturated fat, or pork with all visible fat trimmed from it. So that's kind of the guidelines. But basically, people will say, "Can I eat this?" And I'll answer the question with, "Does it have polyunsaturated fat in it?" Well, the label doesn't show any. Well, we'll do the ingredients, because they don't have to tell you on the label if it has poly. They have to tell you if it has saturated, because we're supposed to avoid it. But it's very helpful for me because I go looking for it. Like, I look for the product that has the most saturated fat in it. Like, when I buy ice cream, I don't mess around. It's Häagen-Dazs. I eat a pint of Häagen-Dazs 5 nights a week. A pint. It's anywhere from 840 to 1100 calories. And I mean, it's a nightly, almost nightly routine for me. The days that I don't eat Häagen-Dazs, I eat cheesecake. I just make sure that there are certain flavors of Häagen-Dazs that do have vegetable oil in them. So you need to look for that. if you're gonna eat Haagen-Dazs. And I'm not recommending Haagen-Dazs to somebody that has a problem with blood sugar or something like that, because if you have that issue, that might not be the thing to do. You could still raise your saturated fat and lower your polyunsaturated fat. And if sugar is something that's a no-no for you, then maybe you shouldn't do it. But it doesn't affect me. So I've taken my blood sugar many times 2 hours after a pint of Haagen-Dazs, and it's like 105, 104, 109. I mean, it's got to be up to 140 or above before your insulin response is not good to the meal. I've actually not routinely, but I've actually eaten a pint of Haagen-Dazs and then a large slice of cheesecake, and then measured my blood sugar a couple hours after that, and it was 98. So anyway, point is, you can eat saturated fat. So you can have cheeseburgers. A lot of times you'll find polyunsaturated fat in the buns. I've found these ones at Walmart called Pepperidge Farm butter buns. They don't have any poly, they have butter as the thing. And most baked goods used to always be made with butter. Well, I don't know, Crisco was a big thing, but anyway, don't ever eat that. And if you find it, that's a better choice, obviously. If you find something that's got polyunsaturated fat, like it's a bun and it says it has 1 gram in it, I would say, yeah, that's okay. Just be careful that you're not eating 1 or 2 grams at breakfast, 1 or 2 grams at lunch, and 4 or 5 grams at dinner, and then you're blowing your total, because as polyunsaturated fat levels go up, fat storage goes through the roof. That's what happens. So I'm not going to get into the science in this. I might at some point a little bit. I'm certainly no expert in that area. If you want to know about the science, go to fireinaBottle.net, Brad's website. Lots and lots of articles on there, and you can get as deep as you want to in this. I will talk about some of the articles and what I gathered from them. One of the things was there was one on there where they did a study on mice, and they fed mice a diet high in polyunsaturated fat, and another group of mice, they fed them a diet high in stearic acid, which is a long chain saturated fat. And the mice who ate the stearic acid basically melted all the body fat off it. They just didn't have any. They had basically no fat. They got super, super lean. And what's interesting is the kind of mice that they use to do these studies on whether something makes you fat or not, they're actually a breed of mouse that is designed to get fat. So they're predisposed to obesity. So you take a mouse that's predisposed to obesity, so it could be kind of like a human that's predisposed to obesity. You feed them a diet high in stearic acid, and you keep the polyunsaturated fat really low, and the fat melts off of them. You might say, well, and I agree with you, mice have a lot faster metabolism than humans. This is true. But the way this works, it works at the level of the mitochondria in the cell, and I'm not going to get into the science, but mitochondria across species basically work the same way. So it's a good model. Something, they call it a conserved mechanism. Basically, it just means that it's something that evolutionary has been in multiple species for millions of years. So it's awesome. One of the things I really like about it too is polyunsaturated fat. When you eat a bag of Lay's potato chips, as an example, I think the food science guys, the ones who knew that they were going to be addicting, helped the marketing department come up with the phrase, you can't eat just one. And they're right, you can't. Because polyunsaturated fat sends a signal to your brain that you're hungry and to keep eating. And there's reasons for that, and I'll get into that in maybe another video. But overall, 40 pounds lost, 7 months. My best friend Rob, 40 pounds since, I guess in 5 months. Another buddy of mine, 18 pounds. Another coworker, 12, 13, I think he was up to 14. So it works. Is it right for everybody? I don't know. I'm not the judge of that, but you can eat cheeseburgers. Just don't eat French fries because they're cooked in vegetable oil. You can eat don't put mayonnaise on your hamburger either. All mayonnaise, store-bought mayonnaise, is made with vegetable oil. If you're a fan of mayonnaise and you want a spread for a sandwich, you can take a container of sour cream, 8-ounce container of sour cream, and put it, in a bowl, and take a packet of dry ranch seasoning, and mix it up, and you have a ranch spread, and it's fantastic. In my opinion, tastes better than mayonnaise, and it's saturated fat instead of what I like to call the devil's oil, polyunsaturated fat. I just think it's the root cause of probably almost all the metabolic disorders we see exploding all over the globe, because every country is just consuming large quantities of polyunsaturated fat, vegetable oil. Humans, we weren't really designed, and I don't think, prior to, mechanized machinery shoving plants through a machine that can extract the oil from tiny little seeds that would be almost impossible to harvest, I don't think, humans would have had a way to eat a lot of polyunsaturated fat, except for one time a year during the fall, like right before it became winter. You're in a situation where you probably need to put on a few pounds because times are tough, food's hard to find. So all of a sudden, pecans, walnuts, acorns, peanuts, cashews, they're in season in the fall. You can eat them. You can put on 10 pounds, and then the lean, cold winter where there's not much food, you can use that 10-pound reserve to make it through the winter. And it's kind of the same thing with Brad has a lot of articles about hibernating animals and a thing he calls torpor, which is the state that you get into when your metabolism slows down. Globally, I heard this just recently, that globally they're saying that 98.6 is no longer like the standard temperature. It's something like 97.8 now. If the global human being's body temperature is getting lower, it means the metabolism is slowing down. The lower your resting body temperature, the slower your metabolism is. So why would globally the people's body temperatures being going down? It's polyunsaturated fat. That's why. And we know this because if you read what Brad writes about hibernating animals, they eat it so they can slow their metabolism down. So you eat polyunsaturated fat, your metabolism gets slow, and next thing you know, you pack on a bunch of fat. And if you're a hibernating animal, that's good. You want to do that so you can sleep through the winter, and you've got a reserve bank of calories to survive on while food is scarce. It's really the only time you need saturated fat, and we don't, because we live in climate controlled, we have grocery stores. In a nutshell, we have access to polyunsaturated fat, and they stick it in every packaged food in the grocery store. And the reason that they do that is because it's addictive. It makes you want to eat more. It makes you want to eat more of everything, not just more polyunsaturated fat. So it sends a signal to your brain to eat more. Saturated fat, particularly stearic acid, the one that we're most interested in consuming more of, which is found mainly in butter, beef, dairy products, and chocolate. Really high in chocolate, actually. Cocoa butter is 33% stearic acid, so a large chunk of stearic acid there. It sends a different signal. It sends a signal to your brain that you're full. After I ate a pint of Häagen-Dazs, and I was telling somebody I ate a pint, I couldn't even eat a whole pint. Well, maybe not, but you're full afterwards. And the great thing is I'm not hungry in between meals. I'm not ever thinking, I need a snack. It's just not something that happens. There's a signal that's sent to your brain. They call it satiety. You're satisfied, basically, satiated. You don't need anything else. And especially when you eat saturated fat and carbs together, like a croissant, or Häagen-Dazs ice cream, or a cheeseburger without the mayo and the French fries. You feel full after you eat it until your next meal. And sometimes even you're not ready to eat again at your next meal, but I eat on a schedule just because I'm trying to keep a certain level of nutrients and protein and stuff coming in for my workouts. And let's see some more stuff to talk about. In the beginning, when I first started this, I was able to eat well above my maintenance calories. Maintenance calories are the amount of calories you need to eat to maintain your weight. So it's easy to figure out. If you don't know what your maintenance calories are, be a good idea to figure it out. And the way to figure it out isn't to take in what an app tells you your maintenance calories are. That's a good place to start. If you plug in your height, your weight, your age into a fitness app, it'll spit out a number, and then it'll ask you about activity level, and you can put in, moderate, sloth, whatever, and then it will add up some more calorie expenditure for that, and it'll give you a number, and it'll say, your maintenance calories are X. For me, but here's how you figure it out. You eat that way for a week and you record what you eat. You put it into an app. Like I use Chronometer. I used to use another one like MyFitnessPal or something like that. But Brad used Chronometer, and so I checked out that app, and it had way more information about all the nutrients and everything that was in the food. Your vitamins, your minerals, your amino acids, your polyunsaturated, your monounsaturated, even your trans fats, like breaks all that stuff out. So I like that app better. So I started recording everything I ate in that app. But if you want to figure out your maintenance calories, take a number, and let's say that the app spits out a number and says 2,800 is maintenance for you. Eat 2,800 for a week. Record everything you eat in your app for that week. Take your weight first thing in the morning after you go to the bathroom. And if whatever you're wearing, if you're wearing underwear and a t-shirt, the next time you weigh, make sure you're in the same kind of clothing. You'd be surprised at how much wearing a t-shirt and underwear weighs versus nothing. So also, you'd be surprised at how much more you weigh if you forget to weigh yourself and you wake up and you drink a 16-ounce bottle of water and drink a cup of coffee, and then you go weigh. And you're like, oh my gosh, I gained 2 pounds. You didn't gain 2 pounds. You just put 2 pounds of fluid in your body and you're weighing that. So be consistent about your weight. So weigh a certain way first thing in the morning, and then a week later after eating 2,800 calories or whatever your number was for the week, weigh again. If your weight went up, your maintenance calories are less than 2,800. If your weight went down, your maintenance calories are more than 2,800. So if it went up a tiny bit, they may be a tiny bit higher. If it went down a tiny bit, they may be a tiny bit lower. But it's a good way to figure it out. Everybody's different. Everybody's metabolism is different. So I use a general rule of thumb. For me, 15 calories per pound of body weight is roughly my maintenance. So 3,300 calories is maintenance for me. Now, it used to be about 14 calories per pound, but my metabolism has sped up on this diet. I've gotten a faster metabolism since I started. And that has been because my body fat has become more saturated. That's another thing that Brad talks about. I haven't had it tested, but I know it has to be what's causing it, because normally when people who are trying to get really lean are cutting calories, they have to stair step them down. They have to keep, in other words, they'll lower their calories by 10% from their maintenance calories, and they'll lose weight for a month or 6 weeks. And then they'll get stuck and they won't lose anymore. They'll just be like, okay, I lost, however, 10 pounds, and then now I can't lose anymore. But I've got 15 more pounds to go to get to wherever I want to be. So they have to drop them again. So they drop them again. And what happens is, like, these fitness competitors who are getting their body fat like really low, like down to 6% or something like that, they'll wind up wrecking their metabolism, wrecking their hormone systems, and slowing their metabolism way down. And they'll be all the way down. They'll start off at 2,800 and they'll be down here at 1,700 2 weeks out from their show. They'll look great, but their testosterone production's in the toilet. Their thyroid production's in the toilet. I mean, they've done lots of studies on this. So, but yet they stair step their calories down. Crazy thing, at first when I started the Croissant Diet, I was eating above maintenance quite a few days and still dropping weight. I mean, like considerably above maintenance. Like had days where I ate 4,000, a couple days I knocked on the door almost 5. Now I didn't do that every day, but I did do it, and I still dropped weight after doing it. But that was short-lived. I did that for about the first month or so, and then I noticed later on when I did that, it didn't have the same effect. So I knew what to do. I just took my maintenance, cut my calories by 10%, started eating 2,800 to 2,900 calories a day, And I did that basically for 7 straight months. And the weird thing is, I never had to stair step it down any further than that. I kept it at that tiny little deficit the entire time and continued to drop weight. I've gotten to the point now in the last month where I've been satisfied with what I weigh. I didn't want to drop anymore. I just recently decided I think I'm going to try to drop 8 more pounds, just because I just want to see, what's possible with this. Because when I competed in bodybuilding, I don't know, 20 plus years ago, 24, 25 years ago, I had to get my calories extremely low to step on stage, and I probably was, an honest 8% body fat when I competed. People see the pictures, they'll be like, oh my gosh, you were shredded. But I mean, I was not as lean as you see these guys now. I mean, they're getting ridiculous. I hear people all the time saying, that fitness models that are saying that they're 6 and 7%. I'm looking at them like, no, you're not, dude. You're 9, you're 8. You're not that lean. So I wasn't that lean either. My scale says right now that I'm 14.9%. I think that my scale's wrong. I think I'm a little bit lower, not much, maybe 1% lower, maybe 1.5%. I think I'm probably closer to 13 if I'm being 100% honest. But for me, 13%, winds up being where I have visible abs. I don't know how well they'll show up in this video, but I mean, just for the sake of it, why not? Let's go ahead and... So the lighting's not the best, but there you go. 53 years old, not bad. I'd like to see, if I could get a little bit leaner just for the heck of it. Maybe drop down to 205, see what that looks like, and see if I can maintain that. This diet is so easy to follow for me because the food is good. I like it. I mean, what's wrong with eating a buttery croissant with cheese for breakfast and buttery mashed potatoes and ground beef for lunch and Haagen-Dazs ice cream for dessert at night? And dinner is kind of the wild card at my house. It's usually 6 or 7 ounces of protein for me and a cup of starch, usually. And my wife knows now pretty much everything. We don't cook with anything but butter. That's it. I mean, just butter, So, and then a cup of vegetables. I do also consume 2 smoothies every day, a spinach, orange juice, and unsweetened cranberry juice smoothie with a total of 3 tablespoons of stearic acid. So 1.5 tablespoons in each of those smoothies. There's only 6 ounces of orange juice and 4 ounces of cranberry juice and 3 ounces of spinach and 3 tablespoons of Brad's pure stearic acid powder in that smoothie, and that makes 2. So I drink half of it for breakfast and the other half for lunch. I didn't do that my first 6 weeks, so I think it really helps. I think the stearic acid adds to the fat loss ability, but I was getting plenty of stearic acid from the butter, from the beef, from the croissants, from the chocolate that I was eating, along with, I wanted to get my micronutrients. I wanted to get vitamin K. I wanted to get a little bit of vitamin C, not much. I wanted to get vitamin A. I wanted to get minerals and B vitamins, and so that's why I do the spinach. I wanted to get iodine, so that's why I do the spinach and the unsweetened cranberry juice. Unsweetened cranberry juice is one of the best sources of iodine outside of seafood, and but it's never listed on the label. You'll never pick up a bottle of any cranberry juice, and I don't drink the sweetened cranberry juice. But it's a really, really good source of iodine. And so if you look up a USDA nutritional database for cranberries or something, you'll find it listed in there. So anyway, that's what I do right now. I'm going to do some more videos about why polyunsaturated fat is bad in my opinion, why saturated fat is good for you in my opinion. I'll do some breakdowns of my blood work, like my cholesterol is good, my triglycerides are good, my LDL and HDL ratio is good. I'll talk about some other substances. Fish oil is one. I take a couple of capsules every day. Fish oil actually is polyunsaturated fat, but the omega-3s in it are something that helps with this diet. There's a chemical compound that they suppress, and you want to suppress if you want fat loss to be elevated. Again, I wasn't doing that at the beginning, so it's not required, but little things added to it can be 10%, 12% enhancement to the effect. So if you're getting really good effect and then you want to have a little bit more, you could add a few of these things in. Brad actually is breeding pigs that are not fed a diet high in polyunsaturated fat. It's called Firebrand Meats, I believe. So he's got, and I think he's doing that with chickens too. So that's something in the future that I'll be interested to try, because I do really like bacon. And I like chicken wings, but I don't eat them pretty much now. I did have a cheat day when I got down to, I decided when I started at 253, when I got under 220, I was going to have a cheat day. So I didn't cheat until I got under 220. So it was a long time. But when I got up under 220, I went out and ate some things that, are not conducive for this diet. And let's just put it this way. I ate 2 double BLTs from a place in town that loads up the bacon anyway. I ordered them double. I had 2 of them. I had pimento cheese on them, and I ate them all. And then my wife and I drove straight from there, and I went to Krispy Kreme, and I ate 4 Krispy Kreme donuts. And then, an hour later, I ate another one. And I knocked off like half a box of spicy Cheez-Its, like that, more than half a box, probably 2/3 of a box. Got a ton of polyunsaturated fat that day. Anyway, I gained 4.5 pounds. And it took 14, 15 days to take that 4.5 pounds back off by going strictly back to eating this way. And there's nothing strict about it, but it still took a lot longer. So I kind of learned my lesson, like, don't, polyunsaturated fat, don't binge on it. I also like tortilla chips at the Mexican restaurant, and I can knock out several baskets of them before the food gets there. So, but I just don't eat it anymore, because I want to be lean and I want to be healthy. I've got an 18-month-old and I've got an older son that just graduated from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. So I've got both ends of the spectrum, but I want to live a long time, so I don't want to be unhealthy. And while there are plenty of people who will see this that will tell you it is, I hope over time, if by reading what Brad writes and some of the articles and videos and things that I'm going to share, you will find that this is a good way to go, and that we've been lied to. So that's my review, my probably relatively long first video on the Croissant Diet. Thank you, Brad Marshall. Man, I can't believe it, because I've never been on a nutritional program before since I competed in bodybuilding where I followed it and it was this easy to stay on it, because it's so enjoyable, and it took me all the way to my goal. I mean, I got all the way to where I want to be, and basically, as of a few weeks ago, I said, I don't think I want to be any leaner than this. But then just recently I decided, I don't know, let's see. Let's just see. So I'm going to give it a shot. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the information, and I plan to put more videos up. I will, throughout this video where I talked about things like blood pressure, blood sugar, body weight, before and after, I'll throw in a few pictures, so that'll be retroactive. You're at the end hearing this now and you'll see them before, but whatever. Anyway, I'm new to this whole YouTube thing, haven't done it before, so this is my first take at it. I did one YouTube video about lawn care a couple years ago. Anyway, also, if you find that video, you'll see I was a lot fatter. But hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing more with you about this. I got a lot of stuff about this Croissant Diet to share, so thanks again, Brad Marshall, for turning me on to this, for all the amazing articles that you put out. I always learn something new every time you write a new one, so keep it up. And you know, hey, if you have any questions or you like the video, and if this is my first one, if you like what I'm talking about and you want to give it a try, subscribe. You can keep track of more information about this. I'll share recipes. I'll probably do a cooking video where I show what I make for a week on Sunday at some point. And you know, so yeah, click subscribe and share this video with your friends if you think they'd be interested. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. That's it. Thanks.